Welcome to Creepy, the best horror storyteller on YouTube.
I have grown very tired of taking these pills. Do they really think these pills are going to make me normal? Do they really think that these pills will stop my need to kill? I've been committed to Westburgs mental institution for the past 3 years, and for what? Is it because in 2001 I saw a man waiting for the subway and decided I wanted to see what his inside looked like, so I slid his stomach open? Or how about when I grabbed a man's head when he wasn't looking and slammed it into a glass window and watched him bleed to death from the slit in his throat? Or maybe it's when I'm pretending to change a tire on the side of the highway, and when a nice young man stopped to help me, I beat him to death with a tire iron. Those were the only murders I was convicted of, so it couldn't be because of the other ones that have yet to be solved. Of course, with this fucked up country, I just insisted that I heard deranged voices in my head that told me to kill all of those people, and sure enough, they bought it. And that's why I'm here instead of a maximum security prison. But hey, it's not all bad here. I get 3 meals a day. I get to watch TV all day, and I get to pretend I hear voices in my head. Not too bad for a convicted murder. But like all things, this place was starting to get stale, so I knew I needed a change, and quick. Lucky for me, the nurse that brought me the pills today was new and didn't think it was a good idea to keep an eye on me at all times. So when he had his back turned to me, I crept up behind him and snapped his neck. I quickly stripped him of his clothes and his badge and instantly became a member of the Westburg faculty. It was about 2 a.m. in the morning, so that meant not a lot of guards on duty, and the one guarding the front door was a complete moron, so sneaking past him would not be a problem. I quickly slid Mr. Kent's body under the bed and slowly cracked open the door. I peered my head out into the hallway, and of course no guards monitoring the floor. I stepped out into the hallway and made my way to the front entrance. When I got to the front desk, I see the officer on duty with his feet propped up on the desk playing on his cell phone and his chest littered with powder from a donut. I made my way past him with my head hung low and gave him a quick wave, but the buffoon kept his eyes glued to his cell phone and just grumbled. I scanned the badge onto the security door and smiled as the light turned green and the door clicked open. I took the steps 2 at a time and stopped at the bottom of the stairs and took a deep breath of the glorious fresh air. It's been 3 years since I've been free, and I couldn't decide what I wanted to do first. Well, I did know the first thing I needed to do was get the fuck away from this place and find some regular clothes. I started to jog a little until I was off of Westburg's property and onto the main streets. I scanned left and right to see which way I should begin my journey. The next round of medicine was at 7 a.m., and usually the guards don't take a dead body under a patient's bed lightly, so I needed to get a move on it. I decided to take my chances and go right. I began walking for about a mile when I noticed a bar just up the road. Most of the lights were off, but I could still see a few stragglers hanging out enjoying the last bit of a cigarette. I quietly hid behind the dumpster and waited for a poor sap to stumble to his car alone, thinking he is okay to drive. Sure enough, a tall surfer guy made his way into the dark parking lot. I scanned the parking lot to look for my weapon of choice and found a beer bottle. I broke the tip of the bottle as quietly as I could and made my way up to Surfer Boy. I watched him stumble and try to get his keys out of his pocket. I figured he'll probably kill himself anyway driving, so I might as well save him some time. I spun him around and shoved the beer bottle deep into his throat. He gasped and tried to grab onto me, but I quickly moved and he hit the pavement. I snagged the keys from his hands and took out his wallet too. Cheap bastard only has $60. Oh well, that will get me some clothes and something to snack on. I stopped at a Walmart and bought me some blue jeans, a t-shirt, and a baseball cap. At least now I'm in some regular clothes instead of some goddamn gown that showed my ass off. Oh yes, and this beautiful shiny new butcher knife. I climbed back into the car I stole from Surfer Boy and tried to decide where my next destination would be. It was 5 a.m. and only a couple more hours until they realized I was missing, so I decided to jump on the interstate and drive as far as I could on the full tank of gas Pretty Boy left me. I drove about 120 miles north and decided that I better get off the roads since it was now 7 and every cop in a 100-mile radius was probably already looking for me. I jumped off the interstate and saw a sign for the University of Ohio. Perfect, I thought they wouldn't think to look for a deranged killer there. I parked the car in a wooded park about 5 miles from the campus and decided to go the rest of the way on foot. I finally made it to the campus and decided to check out the surrounding stores. I ran into a gas station with about 3 to 4 college students hanging out. I walked over to the payphone and pretended to use it so I could eavesdrop on their conversation. I overheard them talking about a small party that they were going to be having in one of the old campuses they used to rent out before they had to shut it down for faulty wiring. They were even nice enough to say the address so I wouldn't have any trouble finding it. It took me a little while, but I finally found the place. It was an old brick building, probably built in the 40s. The windows were boarded up, the stairs were broken. A perfect place for a murder scene. I hid in the bushes across the street and seen a white expedition pull up in front of the building. I watched as 3 slutty girls stepped out of the back seat wearing very low-cut shorts and a skimpy shirt that barely covered their fake tits. From the front set came 2 meatheads wearing tight shirts trying to show off their huge muscles but still came off a little gay. And finally another musclehead came from the back hatch of the car. He wasn't as buff as his friends but still had little dick syndrome. I watched the 2 bigger guys grab 2 cases of beer and head inside as the sluts followed him. I crept to the back part of the building and watched as the group placed candles around the house and began to crack open a few beers. I watched as one of the sluts and one of the bigger guys make their way upstairs. Ecstasy pills must have been in the beers because after only half an hour the 3 girls hooked up with the 3 guys and were spread across the house fucking. I knew this was my chance, so I slowly cracked open the back door and made my way inside. I stepped into the kitchen and could hear loud techno music coming from upstairs. I made my way to where the first adorable couple was engaging in sexual activity. I waited until little Pecker finished and went to clean up. I stood in the doorway holding my knife by my side and the dumb bitch couldn't even see me. I waited until her back was turned and snuck up behind her and stuck the knife deep in her back and covered her mouth with my hand. I stabbed her several more times until her lifeless body crumpled to the floor. I heard the bathroom door opening, so I hid and patiently waited until he came back into the room. I watched as he walked into the room and stepped into a pool of blood. Before he could scream out to his friends, I emerged from the dark and quickly slit his throat. He dropped to the floor on top of the last slut he would ever bang. I made my way to the staircase and started to climb up. Once I reached the top of the stairs, I could hear moaning from both the left and right side of me. I decided that left would be the lucky winner. I slowly tiptoed to the door and turned the doorknob as soft as I could. I opened the door just a hair and could see Miss Slut riding the butch hunk, her fake tits glowing in the moonlight. The music was blaring so loud they didn't even hear me open the door and walk to the side of the bed. Meathead's eyes were closed and Slut had her back towards me, so neither one of them saw me raise my knife high and plunge it handle deep into her skull. Jock Boy must have felt the impact because he opened his eyes and screamed in terror. I punched him in the face several times to shut him up while I got my knife out of the bitch's head. I finally wiggled the knife free and rose it high in the air when I heard a loud bang from behind me and immediately following an enormous amount of pain in my shoulder. The last thing I remembered was grabbing my shoulder and feeling the blood ooze of the puncture hole. I fell to the floor, banging my head on the ground, and blacked out. I must have been out of the loop for quite some time because those cops sure are smart now. Apparently, one of the cameras in the Walmart parking lot caught me driving off in the car I had just stolen. A biology class out for a project in the woods noticed the car and reported it to campus security and in turn notified all the local cops in the county in which the license plates came from. I also was a fool for not thinking that the police would bring my picture around campus and ask if anyone has seen me, and of course I'm sure there was plenty of little fuckers that seen me pretending to use the phone and staring at the group of kids I planned to murder. I never would have thought the cops would be smart enough to investigate all areas that the group of kids might have been partying at. It's such a shame I was such a fool and led the cops right to me. But I've learned my lesson now. I'm still claiming that I hear voices, so I'm back in the same place I escaped before, and soon I will have my fun again.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more similar horror stories.